A Delta Airlines flight from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam was hit by serious turbulence, sending 25 passengers to hospitals and forcing the flight to divert to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, the airline said. According to Associated Press, the Airbus A330-900, which can seat over 250 people, landed around 7:45 p.m. Wednesday. The airport fire department and paramedics met the flight. The 25 passengers were taken to hospitals for evaluation and treatment, the airline said. One passenger said people who weren't wearing seatbelts were thrown about the cabin. They hit the ceiling, and then they fell to the ground, Leann Clement-Nash told ABC News. And the carts also hit the ceiling and fell to the ground and people were injured. It happened several times, so it was really scary. Delta said in a statement, "We are grateful for the support of all emergency responders involved." Germany is preparing more than 60 military procurement contracts by the end of this year, which must be approved by Parliament. They include the purchase of 20 Eurofighter fighters, up to 5,000 Boxer armored vehicles and at least 3,500 Patria OJ armored vehicles, Bloomberg reported, citing informed sources. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius briefed lawmakers on the government's priorities for turning the Bundeswehr into Europe's most powerful conventional army, according to sources who spoke on condition of anonymity. The German government is expected to approve a medium-term financial framework on Wednesday that would more than double the annual defense budget to €162 billion over 4 years. That level of funding is to be reached by 2029, well ahead of NATO's target of 3.5% of GDP by 2035. The massive purchase package was made possible after Chancellor Friedrich Merz's ruling coalition agreed to lift defense spending outside constitutional borrowing limits and to set up a special €500 billion debt fund to develop roads, railways, energy infrastructure and schools. Germany's defense buildup will have a distinctly European focus, the sources said, as Merz seeks to shift spending toward regionally produced goods to make the continent less dependent on U.S. suppliers. NATO countries have pledged to increase defense spending because of Russia's war in Ukraine and concerns that the U.S. may be less interested in defending Europe under Donald Trump's America First presidency. Given Europe's dependence on the U.S. for military satellite communications, Germany plans to invest more than €15 billion in upgrading its satellite infrastructure in the coming years, the sources added. Topping the procurement list is the acquisition of 20 additional Eurofighter jets under a contract worth up to €3 billion. The Eurofighter is being built by a European consortium led by BAE Systems plc, Airbus SE and Italy's Leonardo SPA. Former Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced his intention to buy the jets at the ILA Air Show in Berlin last year, but the deal has yet to materialize due to disagreements over funding priorities within the previous government coalition. In 2020, Germany ordered 38 Eurofighters for €5.5 billion. Russia's top diplomat on Thursday met with his Syrian counterpart during the first formal to Moscow by an official of the new government in Damascus since former Syrian President Bashar Assad was ousted in a rebel offensive last year despite years of Russian support. According to Associated Press, Syrian Foreign Minister Asad al-Shibani said Syria was interested in ties with Russia and having Russia by our side. Despite having been on opposite sides of the battle lines during the civil war, the new rulers in Damascus, headed by interim President Ahmad al-Sharaa, have taken a pragmatic approach to relations with Moscow. Assad was an ally of Russia, and Moscow's scorched earth intervention in support of him a decade ago turned the tide of Syria's civil war and kept Assad in his seat for years. However, when insurgent groups launched a new offensive last year, Russia did not intervene again to save Assad. Assad took refuge in Russia after his ouster, later claiming in a statement posted on Facebook that he had wanted to stay in the country and continue fighting but that the Russians had pulled him out. A Russian delegation visited Damascus in January, and the following month Russia's President Vladimir Putin had a call with al-Sharaa that the Kremlin described as constructive and businesslike. Some Russian forces have remained on the Syrian coast, and Russia has reportedly sent oil shipments to Syria. Without naming Assad, al-Shibani called on Russia to support the country's post-Assad transitional justice process and said Syria has formed a committee to review pre-existing agreements with Russia. After Israel intervened in clashes between Syrian government forces and armed groups from the Druze religious minority earlier this month, al-Sharaa thanked Russia for its support in rejecting the intervention. Al-Shibani criticized Israel's interference in internal affairs and said it complicates efforts to resolve conflicts between different communities in Syria. Many countries want stability and security in Syria, but there are some that want a weak and divided Syria, that want to prove that the government is unable to protect the minorities or that there are internal problems, he said. He added that Syria's new government has said since day one that we have no hostile intentions towards Israel. We pose no threat to Israel. Syria just wants to rebuild itself. We are tired of the war over the past 14 years. Opening the talks, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told Syrian Foreign Minister Asad al-Shibani that the Russian authorities sincerely hoped for a return to normality and the resolution of all existing challenges.
في هذا السياق تتطلع الجمهورية العربية السورية إلى تعاون روسي كامل وصادق في دعم مسار العدالة الانتقالية في سوريا بوصفه حجر الأساس لبناء دولة القانون وضمان عدم تكرار الانتهاكات وإعادة الاعتبار للضحايا.
معالي السيدين الوزيرين من فهد كمناقش وكارثة سوريا.
اتفقنا اليوم في اجتماعنا مع السيد لافروف على إعادة تقييم الاتفاقيات السابقة وأيضا على تشكيل لجنتين وزاريتين للنظر في جميع الاتفاقيات السابقة مع النظام البائد وإعادة تقييمها بما يصب مصلحة شعبنا.
وما هو مصير الاتفاقيات السابقة وما هي إمكانية إسهام
وأي تدخل خارجي في أي شأن داخلي لأي بلد كان ليس فقط سوريا ستكون نتيجته الفوضى. شروطنا مع إسرائيل هي عدم التدخل في الشأن الداخلي، عدم استخدام ورقة الأقليات.
تشدد على سيادة سوريا، وحدتها، سلامة أراضيها، وهذا ما أكده.
هناك الكثير من الدول تريد الاستقرار والأمن في سوريا، وهناك أيضا أطراف تريد أن سوريا أن تكون ضعيفة ومقسمة، وتريد أن تثبت أن الحكومة غير قادرة على حماية الأقليات أو أن هناك مشاكل داخلية.
في عملية إعادة الأعمار والتعافي في سوريا. شكرا.
نحن قلنا منذ اليوم الأول ليس لدينا أي نوايا عدائية باتجاه إسرائيل، ليس لدينا أي تهديد لإسرائيل، نريد سوريا أن تعيد بناء نفسها من جديد. لقد تعبنا من الحرب خلال 14 سنة، نريد أن نعيد لم شمل السوريين في الداخل والخارج.